It's good to see you. I feel like I need to wake you up and lead you to some calisthenics this morning, right? Because this is a message on the struggle between work and rest. Amen? So we're going to talk about that. How many of you think that you struggle with the balance between work and rest? Just raise your hands, right? The rest of you struggle with lying, and that's okay, right? Because the fact is that we struggle with the balance of work and rest because we've gotten our expectations of work, we've defined work and rest in the wrong way. We have misconceptions of what they are. We view them in a skewed way. And this isn't a new problem, but it's been a problem for quite a while. Consider just your schedule that you keep from time to time. And now, Christy and I have two daughters. We have daughter Avery, who's 8. She'll be 9 on Tuesday. So if you see her on Tuesday, say happy birthday. And she won't recognize you and she'll be weirded out, but it'll be really fun. So, all right, so do that. And then my older daughter, Haley, turns 13 the end of September. So that's where we are. We're in the throes of parenting children that are getting busier and busier with soccer, with softball, with all kinds of different activities. And how many of you have kids that are kind of in that mode of soccer and baseball and all that, right? How many of you have been there before? Some of you have been there before? And we are just beginning to understand the busyness of keeping up schedules, right? You run from practice to practice, activity to activity. We get our kids involved in so many different things. Plus then there's our own schedules with work, with balancing expectations, meetings, all kinds of different stuff. I mean, the reality is we are busy people. Is that true? Right? And the reality too is that so many of us have exchanged, family dinners around the kitchen table for family dinners passed through drive-through windows at McDonald's and eating in the back of cars. Just because we have this pace of life that is so out of control. And so this morning, the message, I want to spend some time looking at and defining work and rest and how we view those two things and how we value those two things in our lives today. So let's begin with kind of a commonly held view, the way people typically think of work and rest. And a commonly held view of work is that work is a concession to life. Isn't that just uplifting, right? Isn't that just like a positive, oh, I feel so good and happy about that? Work is simply a concession to life. Therefore, because of that, it's something we would rather avoid, right? If it's just a concession to life, then it's something we'd rather avoid. It's something we do because we need to put a roof over our heads and food on the table, right? We would rather not do it, but we got to get paid, so we're going to go out and work. And maybe, if you're fortunate enough, you'll find something that you kind of enjoy doing and you can put up with. But work is just a concession to life. It's a part of life, kids. Right? How many of your parents told you that? But I don't want to. Tough. It's part of life. But we've taken that attitude, that perspective towards our work into adulthood when we think that work is simply a concession to life. On the other side of that, as we think of rest or play, right? We think of rest or play as a treat. And if it's a treat, then it's something that we do if we have the time. How many times have you heard, oh, I'd really like to do that, I just don't think I have the time, right? Oh, I'd work out more, but I'm too busy watching TV. I mean, working, right? And so we all know, I'd really like to get more rest. I'd really like to do something fun. I just don't have the time. And as we view our rest time as a treat, then it's something we only get to if we actually have the time for it. But we just recognize that how many of you have extra time in your schedule today, right? We don't. Well, some of you do, but it's a Labor Day weekend, so you're supposed to, right? But the reality is if we have this view of work as just a concession to life and rest as something we do as a treat or a reward for ourselves, if we have the time, what we do is we find ourselves working all the time. We're busy, busy, busy. We go from thing to thing to thing to thing, and we never take the time to have the margin in our lives to actually rest. And so my question for you today is, how's that working? Right? It's not. I mean, we've exchanged it. We believe this is the fact that this is how things are just supposed to be, and maybe we're convinced that, oh, it's just going to be a period that I'm going through. I just got to deal with this for the next year, and then things will get better. We tell ourselves that all the time. And the reality is we need to find balance. I have some statistics on stress, right? And even these statistics are probably going to cause some of you to stress out more, so I apologize for that, right? So 44% of Americans feel more stressed today than they did 5 years ago, right? There's a good chance like 95% of you feel more stressed now than you did 5 minutes ago, but we'll talk about that too. It says that 1 in 5 Americans experience extreme stress. And they define extreme stress as physically shaking or having heart palpitations or depression. 1 in 5 Americans deal with that. 10% of strokes are caused by work-related stress. Stress can be traced back to as the cause for 60% of all human illness and or disease. 60% of all illness and disease that we suffer in America can be traced back to and find its source in stress. 3 out of 4 doctor's visits are for stress-related ailments. Stress increases the risk of heart disease by 40%, heart attack by 25%, and stroke by 50%. The stress-related ailments, now listen to this, stress-related ailments costed, is that a right word? Costed? It sounded wrong all of a sudden. Costs? Lorna, you're the principal of our school. Cost? No, costed? Okay, I don't know where that came from, but thank you, Lorna, for correcting me. Principal of our school, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so stress-related ailments cost the nation $300 billion a year in medical costs and lost productivity. Think about that for a second. $300 billion cost because of medical expenses and lost productivity. And here's my favorite stat of all. Stress shrinks your brain. Yeah. Some of you have like pea-sized brains right now. But it says stress shrinks your brains because extreme stress events reduce gray matter in the region tied to emotional and physiological functions. So even just extreme stress for a short period of time can have long-term, lasting effects on our well-being. Stress is a huge issue today. This out-of-whack balance between work and rest, wrong perceptions of what they are, keeping them in the right place, is so much of an issue, so necessary for us to pay attention to. And so this morning I want to focus in on this fact, that balancing work and rest is important for a healthy rhythm of life. Balancing work and rest is important for a healthy rhythm of life. Some of you, the balance is out of whack and it's not working very well. For the majority of Americans, our balance is out of whack and it's not working very well. This is not something that's going to happen just automatically. You're not naturally going to fall into a good balance between work and rest. It's going to be a struggle. And as it's a struggle, it's important for us to pay attention to it. You see, we have this idea that if we say we need to rest, or if we complain about how much we work, then it somehow views us as weak, that we need to get out there and just work hard and focus on that. And I don't know if it's ladies, if it's much problem with you, but it probably is. But guys like to get together and brag about how little they sleep and how much they work. Have you noticed that before? Right? Some of your wives are like, right? It's true. But listen to this example. Because Jesus, some of you, I think, how many of you feel like you have a pretty stressful job, pretty stressful life? Right? Some of you admit it. Jesus, you have to admit, had a pretty stressful job, didn't he? I mean, it would be stressful to be Son of God and Son of Man. But listen, I want to read Mark 1 and just hear about how his day went. Okay? Because I'm going to start with verse 29. But we can kind of go back and look. And this is a normal day for Jesus in his earthly ministry. He's calling disciples. He's healing people. He's teaching in the synagogue. People are following around. Crowds are gathering. And then verse 29, we pick it up. It says, immediately he left the synagogue and entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now, these are his friends. So he's been working all day. He's been healing people. He's been teaching. He's going to go over to his friend's house, right? Let's get away. Let's put our feet up, watch the game. Michigan's on. They just beat Appalachian State. But next week they play Notre Dame. It's going to be more challenging. But they get there. Jesus wasn't watching Michigan football, but if Michigan football was on, he probably would have. They get in the house of Simon and Andrew with James and friends. His friend's house are there, and it says, now Simon's mother-in-law lay ill with a fever, and immediately they told Jesus about it. I mean, Jesus had this long day. He's busy. He finally gets to his friend's house. He just wants to relax. He walks in the door. Hey, Jesus, dude, mother-in-law is really sick. I know before you put your feet up, don't take your sandals off yet. Mom's really sick, right? And so Jesus came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and the fever left her, and she began to serve them, right? So immediately Jesus, sick people, even when he's resting. And then it says in verse 32, that evening at sunset. Now, how many of you know about like the Hebrew day planner, right? Their routine was you work when the sun comes up, and you stop working when the sun goes down. So you get all your work done between like 6 and 6. And some of you are like, man, that's a long work day, but think about it. If you didn't have to do anything after 6, you'd kind of like that. That means like no dishes, no cooking. You've got to leave those dishes till the sun came up, all right? You just got to leave them alone. But it says at sunset now, that evening at sunset, they brought to him all who were sick or oppressed by demons. These are like the really fun people to be around when you're trying to relax, right? So the day is done. Jesus has already had a long day. He finally got to the place where his friend's house where he got some rest. And it was bad enough that the mother-in-law was sick. He had to deal with that. Now the sun goes down. Everyone's getting off work. And they're bringing all the sick and demon-possessed people to Jesus. Right? I mean, can you imagine how he must have felt? I mean, he's like, just give me a break. I probably would have freaked out at him, but that's why I'm not Jesus. That evening at sunset, they brought to him all who were sick or oppressed by demons, and the whole city was gathered together at the door. And Jesus healed many who were sick with various diseases, and he cast out many demons, and he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. I mean, Jesus over and over just gave and gave and gave. And a long day, didn't stop. Healed the mother-in-law. A long day, sun's going down. Bring the sick people. Bring the demon-possessed. And Jesus just works and he serves. But then listen in verse 35. It says, in rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus departed. He went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. And Simon and those who were with him searched for him, and they found him and said to him, everyone is looking for you. And Jesus said to them, then let us go on to the next towns, that I may preach there also, for that is what I came for. And he went throughout all Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and casting out demons. Even Jesus, as the Son of God, understood the necessity to pull back and to recharge. He didn't get the breaks, he didn't get the rest, but even he understood the need to get away to a quiet place by himself, where he could pray, where he could be with his Father, where he could speak, and he could recharge. It's not just in Mark 1, but we can see it throughout the Gospels, examples of Jesus desiring to get away, getting away by himself with a few others for times of rest, of rejuvenation. And my point is that even if even Jesus, who's the Son of God, who came to save the world, made time for rest in his earthly life, then shouldn't we also make a priority to find those moments of rest and rejuvenating that are so important? One of the things I learned about rest, because I think there's things we do that we think we're resting, and I don't think we're really helping ourselves. And so I want to focus in on resting well. And I heard a while back that if you work really hard with your brain, you need to rest really well with your body. And if you work really hard with your body, then you need to rest really well with your brain. Does that make sense? Let me explain it this way. If you have a job that you sit at a desk and you're thinking and you're at a computer and you're working and you spend the majority of your time on your tail, right, or you could, then for you to rest, you probably shouldn't sit at your tail at home watching TV, but you need to do something physical, right? You need to have that rhythm, that balance. You got to have the switching. Now, meanwhile, if you're someone who works really hard with your hands, physical labor, and you're out walking, you're very active, then you need to find a way to rest really well with your brain. Maybe read a book, do a crossword puzzle, right? But just checking out, that's a totally different thing, which sometimes, I don't know, I'm still looking for the biblical proof text of why I need to watch football at least 6 hours a week. But I'm still searching, guys. If I find it, I'll let you know where it is, okay? Because sometimes I feel like, man, I've earned it. I need a rest. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch football, right? But the reality is like you sit down for 3-4 hours on your tail watching TV, because honestly, I kind of like, I'll admit, I like watching TV. Does anyone else? We already did confession of sins. I like TV. Sorry. But I mean, sometimes we like that. But at the end, it doesn't necessarily give us the recharge that we need, right? And so for us really to find ways to rest well, we've got to find out and identify what that means for me. Thankfully, I've learned that for me, I've grown a love to run, to bike, to go to the gym. And sometimes I know that when I've just had some really long days at work or I'm really stressed out, this actually happened the other day, I was like, I just got to get to the gym and just get it out, right? I just got to whoosh, purge the body of all the crap that we're carrying around. And so you got to find out what that is for you, because just working over and over and over and putting in more time and more hours and trying to just work your way through it, you're not doing yourself any favors. Your rest, your recharge is not a reward, it's not a retreat, it's a necessity so that you can be productive. We need to start shifting the way we think about things like work and things like rest. And so as we try to craft a biblical definition of these two things, let's begin with developing a biblical view of work. And for that, I want to share with you Colossians 3, verse 23 to 24. I love this verse. For whatever you do, you can go back to this. It says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. We read again, whatever you do, work heartily at it. Work hard at it. Give it your all. Give it your best, as if you're working for the Lord and not for men. Because it's from the Lord that you'll receive your inheritance as reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. You see, this is calling us, this is challenging us to view our work as calling from God. To view your work, whatever it is you do, view it as calling from God. You don't have to work at a church. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to be a missionary. You can be called by God to be a garbage man. And as you are the best garbage man you can be, you are bringing glory to God. Whatever you do, whatever your calling in His life, it's a collection of gifts that God has given you, doors that He has opened in your life, experience that He has blessed you with. As you see that, as you claim that, as you accept that, as you live that out and work hard at it, you bring glory to God. Whether it's as a mother or a doctor or whatever it is, work is calling from God. If it's calling from God, then it deserves our best. So whatever you do, work hard at it. Work hard at it because it brings glory to God as we do. It's something that deserves our best. It's working with integrity, working with diligence, regardless of what it is, ultimately is for God. Contrary then, as we develop a view of resting or playing, rest or play is necessary for balance. Rest or play is necessary for balance. We saw that example in Jesus, right? That as He was working hard, as He was engaged in ministry, even Jesus had to find that time to rest or be recharged. If you go back to Genesis, the creation of the world, in Genesis 2 it begins that after God created the earth, the heavens, and everything in them, on the seventh day God rested. And He established a Sabbath rest for us because on the seventh day God rested from all the work of creation. Rest is not a treat. Rest is a requirement. But not just checking out, but actually doing things that recharge and fill us up. Rest or play is necessary for balance, and therefore it's something we need to make time for. Make time for it. Because if you view it as something extra that, I'll do it if I have the time, you're never going to do it. You've got to make it a priority. Find those things that help you to rest well and make a point of getting them done. I've confessed a lot of sins today. I like football. I like watching TV. I really like Michigan football. Yesterday was a great day. We played Appalachian State. Any Michigan fans? Okay. Jeff, thank you. Next week we play Notre Dame. That'll be more difficult. So the sermon next week is going to be very morbid probably. But another confession I make, sometimes during the week I will leave work and I'll be very selfish. I'll go run or I'll go to the gym and work out. Sometimes in the middle of the day. Everyone say, ooh, boo. But here's the thing I know. Christina's laughing because her office is next to me, right? She probably thinks I leave a lot more than once every once. But here's the thing. There are days that I get in at 6:30 in the morning and teaching Bible study and going, and I don't leave here until 10 o'clock at night. And if I did that every day, you wouldn't want to be around me. And trust me, I don't want to be around me, right? So I just know that in my schedule, I've got to make time and find a spot. And for me, if that's 10 o'clock in the morning, if I got from like 10 to noon on Thursday, I'm going to go, I'm going to take it, right? Because I know that if I don't take the time and make a priority to find those times of recharge and rest in my life, then all the other hours of my day, all the other hours of my week, I'm not able to work hard. Because the fact is we just keep piling more and more and more on, and we do nothing to charge ourselves up and have that release. We're not going to get more done. We're actually going to accomplish less. But if we learn the secret of resting well, then we will reap the benefit of actually working hard. And so that's my encouragement to you. It's balancing work and rest is a struggle. And it's more of a struggle today, I think, than ever before. We continue to fill our lives, continue to fill our schedules with more and more activities. For those of you who are raising kids, and as those kids are getting older and becoming teenagers, this is getting tougher and tougher because everyone's telling you, you've got to get them in this program, you've got to get them in this activity, they have to be part of this team. But all of a sudden, you can fill your life up with practices and games and schedules and events and rehearsals and all those things. But you have to ask yourself, at what cost is it coming? More than anything else, we need balance. We need the proper balance between work and rest. And at the end of the day, we learn how to work hard and rest well.